It wasn't the most sophisticated cafe, just a place with the names of different dishes on the menu displayed from the windows. Inside the establishment, a guy asked two people if they were dating. They immediately and firmly denied their colleague's assumption while happily chewing their meals. That kind of question already seemed to tire the girl. She replied that the man simply had no other topic to talk about. Her friend agreed and suggested that everyone should just enjoy the tasty food in silence. However, the burly guy named Drake asked, "If you weren't a couple, why were you always so close?" The two thought almost at the same time that even without being in a relationship, these doubts arose from time to time in a repetitive way. Even though Drake knew what their true relationship was, she wondered why he kept insisting on that subject. The girl was really annoyed, but Drake commented that his questions even made sense. After all, they were always together. The girl replied that Drake himself spent every day beside that guy, so by the same logic, she should also think they were dating. The guy replied simply that the man wasn't his type. Those words seemed to affect the girl a little. Maybe that was why Drake had never had a girlfriend, because he liked men. Still, she didn't want to know about Drake's preferences. She just wanted to understand why he insisted on linking her to that guy. Meanwhile, her friend devoured his food so hungrily as if he hadn't eaten in a week. Drake got irritated just by looking at his face. If he was going to keep that expression, he might as well hand over that handsome face to him. Kylie really had an attractive face, but both Drake and Hana thought he was wasting his good looks. Hana, however, knew well that his problem wasn't physical. The winter was harsh, and ordinary people went out well bundled up to avoid freezing, but she asked her friend what kind of normal person would go around in a t-shirt, shorts, and flip-flops. Kylie didn't even want to listen to his friend's opinion because he thought she didn't understand anything about modern fashion. His friend replied that true fashion lovers would have frozen to death dressing like that. Kylie only said he felt comfortable that way, and that she would never truly understand what fashion was. Then an argument started between the two, with the girl giving him a few slaps. To Drake, that looked exactly like a typical lover's quarrel, and he was starting to get really annoyed. The guy commented that they claimed to be ready to kill each other but wanted to see what would happen when one of them actually fell in love. He asked if they would keep denying everything even then. The two looked at Drake in surprise, listening carefully to his words. Hana despised her friend so much that she couldn't see him as anything other than a simple companion. Besides, the day he got a girlfriend, she would block him without a second thought within just 3 weeks. But Kylie was fully convinced that would never happen, and the reason was obvious. He believed he was too handsome for true love to escape him. Once again, an argument formed, and Drake thought that scene was looking less and less like a fight between friends, and more like a couple trying to hide something. Then Drake asked, "And if you were locked together in a dark room, would absolutely nothing happen?" In perfect sync, as if rehearsed, they replied that no, nothing would happen. A few months later, spring arrived. Hana was one of those who most idealized an exciting college life, preferably with a touch of romance. Before her was her longtime friend and partner with whom she had grown up and learned so many things over 20 years, Kylie. He seemed about to say something important, holding in his hands a sealed envelope with a heart drawn on it. When Hana asked what it was about, he revealed he had received a love letter with a confession. Her reaction was predictable. For Hana, it was evident that this relationship wouldn't last more than a few days, while Kylie trembled between anxiety and euphoria. Even with his friend's cutting remarks, he never truly got hurt. After all, they had been together since childhood. The girl then asked sarcastically how long that relationship would last this time. 3 weeks or less. The guy immediately frowned and retorted, saying she was like a lone wolf, which made Hana irritated and frown as well. In a dramatic gesture, she turned to leave, but he insisted, asking that she at least congratulate him. She kept mocking, questioning what kind of people still wrote handwritten letters nowadays, but Kylie was so lost in his romantic daydreams that he didn't even pay attention to what she said. Smiling, Hana bet that the romance wouldn't last even a month. She was absolutely sure of it. Time passed. One night, while Hana was sleeping deeply, the phone rang. It was a call from her friend in the middle of the night, and even though she was sleepy, as soon as she saw the name Kylie on the screen, she woke up completely. The reason for the call was sad, though to her nothing surprising. Kylie had ended the relationship. While he thought he was the perfect match, to the point they even bought matching rings, everything had fallen apart in less than a month. He said that this time he really wanted to make an effort, but now he could only feel miserable and ended up crying. The girl asked him to try to calm down, but he seemed too sunk in his own feelings. If her friend was suffering, she believed she should share that burden with him. However, for some reason, all she felt like doing was laughing at that sad situation, at least from his point of view. She tried to comfort him somehow, but ended up letting out a laugh, which Kylie noticed immediately. The boy asked her to go to the bar to console him, and even without feeling the same pain, Hana walked there with a light smile as if nothing had happened. When she arrived, she found Kylie collapsed over the table, already quite drunk. The attendant soon wanted to know if she was his girlfriend. As always, she immediately denied it, saying she would never date an idiot like that. It was already near closing time, so the employee ordered that she take him away as soon as possible. By instinct, Harma began to apologize, but soon realized she was not to blame for anything. Still, the attendant called the manager, warning that the boy's girlfriend had arrived while she continued insisting it was not the case. The girl tried to remain calm, watching her heartbroken friend not knowing exactly how to take him home. A trace of melancholy appeared on her face. Slowly, she began to realize that he was truly devastated. Perhaps she should not have laughed at that earlier. She tried to wake him, but something caught her attention, the bill with the items he had consumed at the bar. To her surprise, there was only one bottle of soju and one of soda. She could not believe he had not managed to finish any bottle. She asked how it was possible to have gotten drunk with only 4 shots and commented that perhaps there was no one left in the world who got so altered with so little. Soon he began to mumble those typical drunk foolishnesses, but Hana wanted to listen. She said firmly that the bar was closing and it was time to leave. Kylie's slurred words began to change, gradually to a single name, Sonia. He asked if it was really necessary to act that way. Even at the farewell, she had left without even giving him a goodbye kiss. He sank further and further into his sadness, until suddenly he raised his head and stared at Hana. Amid the confusion of drunkenness, he mistook his childhood friend for the woman he loved. His hand touched the girl's face softly, leaving her completely surprised. Hana tried to bring him back to reality, saying it was her there, but he only whispered for her to be quiet for a moment, with unexpected tenderness. He began to pull her hood, saying she should not hide. That hid all her beauty. Visibly irritated, Hana complained that now everyone could see her hair, and that she had not even washed it that day. He held her arm gently, stating that he did not care about the state of her hair. The distance between the two shortened suddenly, and Kylie asked in a low voice if they should not kiss. Hana was completely surprised, tried to bring him back to reality, but he was more serious than ever, determined to get that longed-for kiss. He moved his lips closer to hers while Hana remained motionless, not knowing what to do. Their faces were almost touching, and she began to wish that her first kiss would not happen exactly that way. But the long-awaited kiss did not come. Instead, something completely different and terrible happened. Hana froze, not immediately understanding what was happening, while the bar attendant watched the horrifying scene of the boy. It was not a kiss that came out, but an explosion of poorly digested alcohol and all the food consumed earlier. That moment became a traumatic memory. When Hana finally understood what had happened, she felt a genuine urge to kill him. She threw the sweatshirt away and began to drag the friend on her back, but he was far from light, and the effort was immense. She then decided that as soon as he woke from the drunkenness, she would bury him alive. Exhausted, at some point she dropped Kylie's limp body, which remained lying on the ground, showing no sign of life. Angrily, she asked if it was normal for someone to faint like that. After only 4 shots of soju, Kylie continued to mumble drunk nonsense, while Hana complained that adult life really brought many problems, especially for those who lived alone. Observing the friend's pitiful state, she commented out loud that he had no chance of marrying soon, since nobody would accept living with a man like that. Soon after, Kylie began to get up again. Hana preferred that he stayed lying down, but he insisted that he was already sober. With a huge hangover, he said he needed soup immediately, and that the two should go to a 24-hour restaurant. Hana was furious and did not share the same willingness. Without hesitation, she delivered a firm kick to his stomach. It was the price for vomiting on her. About to leave for home, believing he was already recovering, she was surprised by an invitation. Kylie invited her to go to the convenience store, eat a ramen, and spend more time together. When he admitted his guilt, Hana did not expect to hear any remorse coming from his mouth. Still, she was ready to hit him again. He tried to step away, but the guy did not let her go, saying he thought he had hurt his best friend's feelings. She reacted coldly, annoyed with all the drama. Then he rested his head on her shoulder, stating that if it were not for her presence, he would be alone in the bar crying. Kylie seemed genuinely grateful to have such an amazing friend like Hana, although she clearly could not stand that exaggerated closeness. She tried to push his head away with her hands, since even having drunk little, he still exuded a horrible smell. When they arrived at the convenience store, Hana grabbed a ramen, not for him, but because she was really hungry. In light of everything that had happened, she made a threat. If something similar happened again, she would tell everything to his mother, and apparently that threat had an effect. Besides that, she took the opportunity to grab a bottle of soy sauce. Since hers at home had run out, Kylie reacted immediately, saying it was much cheaper to buy in regular supermarkets. Hana, with sarcasm, replied that he also owed her a new sweatshirt since he had ruined the previous one. At that moment, she noticed a mysterious man drop something on the ground. A condom rested on the sidewalk, marked with the symbol of a rabbit and the number 3. She tried to call the man to return the item, but he didn't even turn his face and kept walking. Without thinking much, Hana placed the condom in Kylie's pocket. He complained right away, saying he didn't want Kylo, claiming it probably wouldn't even fit or be useful for anything. But she didn't want it either, since obviously she wouldn't have any use for it. While fiddling with his pocket, the girl's hand slipped further than it should, making Kylie pull away as if he had been shocked. He exclaimed impulsively that just because he was single didn't mean he was easy. Hana stood still, not believing what she heard. Since they lived near each other, each went to their apartment, with Hana promising to bring hot food later. More than half an hour later, she knocked on her friend's door, but he didn't answer or open it. She tried calling, but he didn't answer either. Everything indicated that he had already fallen asleep after their brief goodbye. Hana considered entering alone, but before making any decision, the door finally opened with a familiar creak. She immediately asked why he hadn't answered or opened the door earlier, but upon seeing him, her face turned as red as a ripe tomato. Kylie appeared with a smile, but what truly surprised her was seeing him shirtless. His body was in good shape, and her eyes couldn't help but notice the defined muscles of his abdomen. Even trying to maintain her composure, Hana couldn't hide her embarrassment. Trying to compose herself, she said he had scared her. Kylie replied that he needed to take off his clothes to shower like any person would. He even commented that they had already bathed together when they were little. Hana got furious immediately, threatening to kill him if he told that to anyone. Before entering, she asked if he had really ended the relationship and if she could come in. Kylie didn't understand the reason for the question, and she explained it was just out of politeness. He then approached, stopped a few steps away, placed his hand on her head, and with a slight smile asked if she was really bothered by his former relationship. For a moment, that simple gesture seemed to light stars in Hana's eyes, but she kept trying to maintain an indifferent pose, pushing his hand away abruptly. She replied that she didn't care, trying to hide her blushing face under the cap while wondering why he always touched her like that so naturally. Kylie smiled and commented that even acting that way, Hana was special, and that was exactly what made her so captivating. The girl blushed even more and tried to make him stop. Still, Kylie invited her to eat ramen since otherwise the night would end up wasted. He was happy because she had brought some snacks made by Hana's mother, especially the quinn Kylie thought was the best of all. Meanwhile, Hana knew she needed to stay in control, keeping a certain distance as good friends should. If she didn't set boundaries, that could end in confusion. The table was already set, and the first thing the girl did was drink. Kylie got a little worried seeing her mix beer with soju and wanted to know why she was doing that. She replied that Kylie was shaken by the end of his relationship, and as his best friend she shared that sadness with him. However, Kylie scolded her, saying that drowning sorrows in alcohol wasn't the best way. If she kept drinking like that, it could turn into a serious problem. But Hana didn't give much importance to his words. She was convinced she knew how to control herself. Besides, she questioned how she could avoid drinking on such a sad day. Despite the casual tone, a mischievous, almost playful smile appeared on her face. The first rays of sunlight crossed the window. Hana seemed to have really overdone it with the drinking. She was lying on the floor without her blouse. Still, she managed to get up with effort, grumbling that she shouldn't have drunk so much because her head throbbed as if it would explode. She was amazed by the strength of the pain and didn't even know how she had managed to sleep. She only remembered having eaten quinn ramen, and after that her mind was blank. Looking around, she saw several empty soju bottles and was shocked to notice how much she had drunk. She thought it wasn't possible that she had drunk all of that alone. It must have been just one bottle, according to her. When she placed her hand on the floor, she noticed something strange. She touched something slippery and sticky. Hana found that odd, turned her face in the direction of what she had touched, and upon realizing what it was, got startled and quickly pulled her hand away. She remembered that the night before she had given C the condom that a stranger had dropped. Now doubt consumed her as to why that was on the floor. With the package open, as if it had been used, Hana was visibly frightened. She was partially undressed and knew there was no way Kylie could have used that alone. Gradually, disturbing thoughts began to arise. She looked for Kylie and soon found him also lying on the floor, shirtless, near the table. Upon realizing he was also partially undressed, a new wave of thoughts invaded her mind. Hana couldn't accept that. Because of the alcohol, something could have happened between them that night. Images of the two together, touching and so close, suddenly appeared, and she desperately hoped that it wasn't real. A tense smile appeared on her face. If it were an ordinary romance, that incident would mark the beginning of their love story. She imagined they must have drunk so much that they ended up exchanging smiles, and that was how their love story would have started. But deep down, even Hana knew that wasn't how their story would begin. The truth had been there for a long time. No matter what it meant, Hana had always had feelings for Kylie, yet she also understood she wasn't the kind of girl he was looking for. All of that was nothing but an embarrassing situation. When they were 16, Hana asked if the class president had already confessed to him, and Kylie confirmed that she had, but said he rejected her without hesitation. At that time, she couldn't understand his decision. The president was very pretty, but he said she simply wasn't his type. Hana commented that it was rare to find someone as beautiful as that girl. Even so, the boy seemed indifferent, saying he only cared about what he himself liked, not about appearance. Curious, Hana asked what kind of girl he really liked. The question seemed to make him thoughtful, as if he didn't even know for sure. She waited for the answer while enjoying an ice cream, wondering if he would say that his ideal type was actually her, because if it wasn't her, then who would it be? If he didn't have her as his ideal type, why did he spend his whole life by her side? Kylie came closer, asking her to come a little closer too. A slight blush colored Hana's face, and she wondered, and if he said his ideal was me, how should I react? Then Kylie reached out his hand, gently holding her wrist. She was still holding the ice cream, but instead of replying with words, he simply took a bite of the ice cream she was eating, leaving her frozen in surprise as he stared into her eyes. She got annoyed and wanted to know why he was taking her food. Even so, Hana didn't give up on wanting to hear directly from him what his ideal type was. She wondered why she kept nurturing hopes. They had always been just great friends since childhood, but what if, in the end, she really was the kind of girl he was looking for? Kylie replied that his ideal was a tall and crazy girl. Hana was surprised by those words. Clearly it wasn't her, since she barely reached 1.55 meters. He added that he also cared about the person's soul. He wanted someone with a beautiful soul. Hana sighed and asked where he planned to find someone like that. Then Kylie said he had already found her. It was her because she was crazy too. Outraged, Hana asked if he meant that she was his ideal type, but he denied it, reminding her that he had said he liked tall girls and that she couldn't be proud of that. Laughing, he asked if she was disappointed. Hana replied that she didn't care about that. She had only asked out of curiosity. Trying to comfort her, he gently patted her head, telling her not to be upset, that maybe she would still grow a little more, and who knows, might end up becoming his ideal. A gentle smile appeared on Kylie's face. Hana was surprised by his words and by the sincerity shining in his eyes, But no matter how hard she tried, she never managed to grow despite stretching, trying, and making efforts. In the end, Kylie ended up falling in love with another girl. Maybe that was just a sign that he only wanted to keep friendship between them. And even though it broke her heart, she decided not to change anything. Whenever he started dating, she simply stopped talking to him and only returned after the relationship ended. Hannah believed that the line between them was still clearly defined, but then that happened, and now she didn't know what to do. Already dressed, the first thing she wanted was to leave the apartment as quickly as possible, trying to act as if nothing had happened. But when she tried to leave the scene quietly, a hand grabbed her leg. She knew very well whose hand that was. Her escape plan had completely failed. Kylie had woken up and didn't seem willing to let her go so easily. The girl even shivered nervously. The boy wanted to know where she was going without even saying goodbye, and Hannah found words to reply. He then looked at her and asked in an enigmatic tone if they shouldn't finish what they had started, leaving Hannah completely confused. She wanted to know what he meant by that. She was surprised, even a little scared by his behavior, but Kylie wasn't referring to anything intimate. What he meant was something else: hangover soup for breakfast. Hannah was still dazed. She could barely swallow a spoonful while Kylie always seemed to be in a good mood. They never touched on the subject of that drunken night. Kylie acted as if nothing had happened. Hannah, on the other hand, walked beside him through the streets as if in a trance, her mind trapped in the previous night. She wondered if they would ever talk about it, and wanted to understand how he could act so naturally. As close as she was to him, she felt she needed to ask. She needed to know what had actually happened. She called him, saying she needed to talk. When Kylie looked at her, Hannah confessed that she barely remembered the previous night. She was about to ask if they had really crossed the line, but the moment she began to speak, her lips trembled, making it difficult even to form a coherent sentence. Her effort, however, was interrupted by the arrival of another boy. He seemed surprised to see them together. It was Johan, a friend of both Hannah and Kylie. He greeted them good morning and asked how they were, but the girl was startled by his sudden appearance. Apparently he had overheard part of the conversation, especially the mention of a possible mistake caused by drinking, and didn't hesitate to ask what exactly she meant by that. Hannah tried to change the subject, but she was terrible at it. Johan's attentive and inquisitive eyes remained fixed on her, saying that he had definitely heard something about the mistake from the previous night. Then she managed to get out of the situation, saying she just needed some advice from Kylie. Johan seemed to believe her, but he had already drawn his own conclusions. He was convinced that the two of them had finally hooked up while they were drunk. Upon hearing that, Hannah quickly interrupted, urgently changing the course of the conversation, and said that she had something to do and needed to leave first. She tried to move away from the two boys. Kylie tried to stop her, reminding her that she wanted to tell him something, but Johan held him back, giving her the chance to escape. Back home, Hannah was overwhelmed by a flood of emotions. She felt like screaming. If everything had happened differently, several rumors could have spread. At that moment, she remembered the time when Drake had asked several questions about her relationship with Kylie. Back then, Hannah was convinced that something between them was simply impossible. But now that it had happened, she knew she needed to keep everything a secret. Even so, she couldn't stop wondering why they were almost naked at dawn. She swore to herself that she would never drink again, and begged at least to recover some clear memory of what had happened. Trying to piece together the facts, a few flashes began to appear in her mind. Kylie's body so close to hers and her own hands beginning to remove her clothes beside him. Hannah could hardly believe it. She wondered if her memory was really failing and how all that could have happened because of her. She then decided to stay calm. She thought that if something serious had really happened, Kylie wouldn't have stayed silent. Almost certain that nothing major had occurred, she sent him a message, asking directly if anything had happened between them the night before. Relieved, she believed that he would reply as soon as he saw it and that everything would be resolved quickly. However, more than 5 hours passed without any response, and the message hadn't even been seen. Hannah became even more anxious. The sun was already beginning to set, and there was still no sign of him. Distressed, she thought that maybe something really had happened between them. She knew that Kylie could be a bit slow to respond, but not to the point of ignoring her for that long. Suddenly, a vibration and a notification pulled Hannah out of her daydreams. She dared to believe it was a message from Kylie, but her expectation was quickly destroyed. It was just an ad, not a reply from him. A sigh escaped her, and once again she sank into her own thoughts, wondering if she should go see him in person. Finally, Kylie replied. He said that his phone had died, which was why he hadn't answered earlier. Hannah got irritated. It sounded like a lame excuse, as if he were just trying to avoid the question, and it couldn't end like that. Determined, she decided to call him. However, Kylie was faster. His call came first, and Hannah was surprised but answered. The words that followed truly caught her off guard. He said he was near her house and that they needed to talk. Hannah didn't want to wait another second. In less than a minute, she was already standing in front of him. Kylie watched her in silence, surprised to see her so out of breath. He even thought someone might have been chasing her, given how quickly she arrived. And indeed, she had run out without even wearing clothes suitable for the cold of that time of year. Hannah tried to speak but could barely breathe properly. Kylie suggested she catch her breath before saying anything, but she didn't want to wait. She needed the answer right then, so she asked if something had really happened between them the night before. At first, Kylie seemed not to understand the question. She tried to explain, but the words she had rehearsed simply vanished. Only then did he realize what Hannah was trying to say, and was surprised that she didn't remember anything. While she gathered the courage to hear the truth, Kylie explained that actually that night they had just been playing around. Hana had shown that she knew how to make balloon animals, using exactly that condom she had found. Upon hearing that, the memories slowly began to return. Kylie sighed deeply and said that if she were going to drink like that, she should at least eat properly. He spoke that way because he cared about her. But Hana replied stubbornly that she had drunk so much because she was having fun. A huge wave of relief filled her mind when she discovered that, in fact, nothing had happened. But her thoughts were interrupted by Kylie's next words. He assured her that she didn't need to worry about him. After all, she knew him better than anyone, since they had been friends since childhood. He gently ran his fingers through the soft strands of her hair and commented with a light smile that, although she wasn't very good at it, she should take better care of her bangs. Then he thanked her for staying with him the night before. He said that thanks to her presence, he woke up feeling much better. At last, the misunderstanding between them was completely resolved, and Kylie explained that she had wanted to tell everything early in the morning, but her phone had run out of battery. He was about to leave but assured her that they would see each other again the next day. Hana was surprised by how brief that reunion had been, but she just watched him as he walked away, and once again sank into her own thoughts. She wondered why she was so anxious, why everything seemed to be turning upside down lately, and especially why her heart insisted on beating that way. Even after getting the answer she had been waiting for, she couldn't calm down. Maybe she really was starting to feel something stronger for her best friend, but she quickly pushed those thoughts away, calling them nonsense. She even considered getting a scan since her heart was beating weirdly, as if her own body was sounding an alarm. She kept repeating to herself that they were just friends. Still, she wondered what she should do when she kept acting that way. Once again, she felt like she was pushing herself into a dead end. It was unlikely that Kylie felt the same way. Suddenly, she lifted her head firmly and questioned why she should be the only one worrying. After all, the root of all those confusing thoughts was Kai. She got angry at him for that, and at that moment believed she had figured everything out. She didn't like Kylie. She was sure of it. More than ever, his handsome face was the only thing that was actually worth something. She even made an offensive gesture behind him, calling him a stupid idiot. And suddenly, the boy stopped midway. The girl panicked at the sudden interruption and wondered if he had heard, even though she had spoken so quietly. But no, apparently Kylie had just received a call and stopped to answer it. Hana felt as if a weight had been lifted off her shoulders and decided to hurry home. When she arrived, she simply gave in to the relief that everything had turned out fine after worrying all day for nothing. Even so, she still couldn't quite organize her feelings. What if that continued? What if she really started liking him? Two sides waged a battle in her mind, like an angel and a demon. One encouraged her to start a romance with the boy, the other completely rejected the idea. The angel said she shouldn't fool herself with Kylie since he had already been involved with other girls, and Hana deserved someone more honest. However, the demon tried to ignore the boy's past, claiming that he was handsome. The angel countered, asking whether appearance was really the most important thing in a healthy relationship. A part of her tried to be rational, but the darker side insisted that beauty was essential, a simple pleasure for the eyes. Wanting to let off steam, Hana began punching her pillow, wishing all those voices in her head would disappear. Once again, she tried to convince herself that he was just a friend, nothing more, and that she didn't have feelings for him. Then she came to a curious conclusion. In the past and now, the only boy who had always been by her side was Kylie, so everything was just a misunderstanding. She began thinking about something she had once heard. The spark. That sudden feeling that appeared even from holding someone's hand, like a storm of emotions. But thinking it through, she had never felt that before, and maybe it was worth trying. She thought that a relationship could pull her out of that crisis, and if it were real, that spark would eventually appear. Motivated and proud of her brilliant idea, she jumped out of bed. She needed to test her theory. The next morning, she was already on her way to her university classes. Still fired up by the idea of feeling that spark, she entered the classroom where some students were waiting for the professor. Among them were familiar faces, Johan, Drake, and her childhood friend Kylie, all engrossed in something on their phones, not even noticing her arrival. It was Johan who noticed her first, and soon the other two also realized she was there. He was surprised to see her there. After all, she almost never showed up to that elective class, but he didn't have time to say anything. He abruptly stopped his train of thought when he saw Hana, in search of the spark, gently holding Kimsey's hand. For a moment, a heavy silence filled the room. No one knew how to react. The three boys stared at the scene with confused and surprised expressions, while the girl maintained a serious look. However, when touching Kylie's hand, Hana didn't feel that sensation she had been hoping for. Kylie looked at his friend, visibly surprised, not understanding what she was trying to do. Still determined to find some hint of that emotion, Hana slid her hand and softly interlaced her fingers with his. This new gesture caused an even greater wave of astonishment among the boys. It was no longer just confusion, it was pure shock. Kylie first looked at his own hand trapped in hers, then lifted his eyes not knowing what to think, and asked what she was doing. Hana, however, didn't answer, thinking to herself that she couldn't be wrong in her theory, even though the spark simply wasn't appearing. Suddenly, she burst into hysterical laughter and declared out loud that she had really been right. Then she left the classroom, convinced that between her and Kylie there could be no spark at all. Walking through the hallways with firm, loud steps, Hana felt happy for finally being sure that she had no feelings for her best friend. She decided that she just needed to avoid situations that made her heart race, keep her distance from Kylie, and soon she would be back to how she was before. Meanwhile, among the three boys, the conversation went on without pause. Kylie seemed indifferent to what had just happened, but Johan and Drake couldn't stop commenting on what they had witnessed. Once again, the same uncomfortable question arose. Drake wanted to know if there was something between Kylie and Hana, but the boy denied it again. After finishing the extracurricular activities, Hana decided to go back home, completely exhausted. She had tried her best in class, although she had the impression that the teacher had already forgotten the semester had just started. Hunger tormented her, as she hadn't eaten since the previous night because she was too nervous. She thought she needed food and also someone to join her for the meal since she didn't like being alone. But there was the problem. Besides Kylie, Hana, she entered the university but never made new friends since she always rushed straight home after class. She began to wonder how people became friends since she had no idea how that happened. Then she realized that her only friend was Kylie, simply because she had known him since childhood. When she checked the time on her phone, she knew that if she went home she would be late for the 3 o'clock class. She had never eaten alone outside her house, and for a moment she thought maybe she would have to find Kylie and then separate from him again. She even started typing a message inviting him to lunch but quickly deleted it, trying to suppress the urge to reach out to him. She needed to be cold like winter. It was humiliating not being able to even eat alone without someone's presence. So Hana took a deep breath and made a decision. She would go to the university cafeteria. However, when she got there, she noticed that even though the semester had just started, no one seemed to be eating alone. She thought maybe it would be better to look for a regular shop, but the situation turned out no different. Everyone was sitting in groups. That made her think that maybe she should keep her headphones on or risk being late for the next class and just go eat at home. Behind her, however, a familiar silhouette appeared. It was Kylie. He seemed surprised to find his friend there, especially in that situation, just standing and watching others eat together. He called out to Hana and asked why she was alone. She slowly turned toward the voice, and he, smiling, greeted her and invited her to eat with him, commenting that he was hungry too. However, suddenly, Hana disappeared like dew under the soft morning rays. Even Kylie was surprised by how quickly she vanished. Finally, the long school day came to an end. Hana survived it all and was now hurrying home. Her hands trembled with hunger, and she was sure she would devour all the side dishes her mother had prepared. Once again, however, Kylie took note. He offered to eat her cookie with her, and Hana felt struck by lightning upon hearing his voice since that was her favorite food. Still, she decided to stick to her plan of ignoring him and moving on, but Kylie resorted to a secret tactic. He offered to pay for the meal. For a moment she stopped, as it seemed his strategy was working, especially against her hungry mind and empty stomach. But Hana resisted the hunger and kept walking, which left Kylie even more surprised. Soon the surprise gave way to irritation, and he felt a strong urge to run after her. After all, he was confident he could cover 100 meters in just 13 seconds. Without hesitation, he started chasing her at full speed, and Hana also began to run, shouting for him to leave her alone. From the outside, the scene could look frightening, a boy running after an innocent girl. However, Kylie's physical endurance and speed proved far superior, and soon he caught up to her, grabbed her hand, and that simple touch stirred emotions in Hana, making a faint blush of embarrassment appear on her face, feelings that Kai, however, did not share. He turned her around and asked if she really believed she could run away from him, leaving her speechless. Kylie said it was time for Hana to explain why she avoided him, but she lied, claiming it was nothing while trying to free herself and escape again. To reduce the chance of her running off, he held both her hands at once, a gesture that ended up drawing quite a bit of attention. Hana insisted that he let her go, but Kylie knew that as soon as he loosened his grip, she would start running again. Still, he decided to listen to his friend and ended up releasing her since, according to her own words, she didn't plan to run away anymore. Kylie even suggested they walk holding hands, realizing Hana was plotting something, but he was sure that wouldn't work with him. Then she asked what he thought of her, and he replied that she seemed like a childhood friend who didn't know how to make friends, which made her irritated. He then put his arm around her neck and wanted to know if she was going to have dinner with their classmates, but Hana showed she didn't know anything about the meeting. Kylie found that strange and commented that she clearly needed to make new friends, also noting that she didn't seem to be planning on going to the freshman party. Hana started saying things that didn't make much sense, claiming that university was only for studying, not for making friends, and that she felt more comfortable alone. Kylie countered that she only had him and Merlinda as friends. Hana replied that for her, 2 friendships were more than enough. The boy sighed deeply, wondering how he could avoid worrying about Hana when she acted that way, so much like a child. Indignant, she wanted to know if she really needed to be taken care of by him, and Kylie confirmed that she did, reminding her that he had promised her father. He recalled that when Hana moved, the man had asked him to protect her from more people and not leave her alone. Hana's mother, on the other hand, showed more confidence in both her daughter's independence and in the boy himself, since they had both grown up. The girl's father had even handed Kylie some money, asking him not to forget to look after Hana, even though they were no longer children. Like a true soldier, Kylie saluted the man and promised to be his daughter's full-time bodyguard. The man did not doubt his word and even revealed the wish that one day the boy could become his son-in-law. Hana, however, did not seem excited about that story. She wanted to pull his hand away, fearing people would think they were dating. Kylie laughed and asked who would imagine such a thing, commenting that it seemed to be exactly what she wanted. The words only irritated her even more, but her anger served only as amusement for him, who went on to ask if she would go to the party. The answer remained negative. As Hana walked away, Kylie shouted that if she went, he would introduce her to about 50 people to make friends. She ignored him and left him talking alone. Later, the event had already begun, and the professor was delivering beautiful words to the new university students. It seemed that everyone there was happy to meet new people and make friends. Hana, however, could not keep her word and ended up attending, clapping along with everyone in unison. Even so, she didn't feel comfortable being there and thought to herself that she didn't know if she could maintain that lifestyle for an entire month. She imagined that probably everyone was in the same boat as her, but wondered how they managed to communicate so easily, something she most likely would not be able to do. Soon Hana noticed Kylie's absence and wondered why he wasn't there, since he had dragged her to dinner and now seemed to have disappeared. In fact, he was already at the place but was busy serving food. Their eyes ended up meeting, and the boy stared in silence, in such a strange way that it seemed like he didn't even recognize his own best friend. Hana didn't understand that fixed look until a clear smile appeared on his face, and as he winked in her direction, she finally realized his intentions. She got irritated, saying to herself in silence that she was going to kill him. Kylie sat beside her, surprised to find her alone once again. Hana commented that that was exactly why she hadn't wanted to come. Then he placed on the table a juicy egg cake covered in sauce, sure that she would like it. Next, Kylie mentioned that later Yoren and Drake would show up and that they had to wait, but Hana seemed pleased with the idea since those guys were not her friends, and without him around, she saw no point in being with them. The boy, however, didn't have time to stay there as he was already expected elsewhere. Before leaving, he asked, almost as if it were a disguised order, that she trust him and wait, reminding her of the promise to introduce her to 50 friends. Hana wondered if he would really leave her there, and knowing that he understood how much she hated that kind of situation, tears began to appear in her eyes. He was already spending time with other girls, and also had his obligations. He couldn't take care of her all the time. She felt like a child, out of place amid so many lively conversations. While everyone talked naturally among themselves, she remained alone, feeling like a loser. Hana reflected in anguish that she didn't know how to socialize, and wondered how people managed to start a conversation without knowing anything about each other. She had the impression she hadn't done absolutely anything, yet already felt exhausted. She even thought it might be better to sneak out as soon as she had the chance. At that moment, a boy noticed her and remarked obviously that she seemed nervous. Hana looked around and he immediately understood that she was undoubtedly a freshman. The girl even thought of leaving discreetly so that no one would notice, planning to go to a cyber cafe. But the plan failed when the same boy sat next to her, saying he was surprised to see her alone. Hana stared in surprise and with a handful of silent questions. He tried to introduce himself while she only wondered if he was also a freshman like her. She answered politely, greeting him in return, but thought it would have been better to run away earlier. At least she told herself she could say hi before leaving, but the boy seemed a bit strange, greeting her in an insinuating tone, which she found obviously weird. Hana wondered why he acted that way, and if the students in that place had some special greeting instead of a simple hi. He immediately noticed that she was about to run away and wanted to know why. Hana smiled awkwardly when she realized she had been caught and tried to make up some excuse that would make him leave soon, since she had the feeling there was something wrong with that person. Meanwhile, Kylie watched his friend from afar, surprised, wondering if she had really made a friend. That scene impressed him and made him reflect on whether she was okay, as he found it strange to see her talking alone with a stranger. In less than a year, it seemed that Hana was changing, becoming more sociable and mature. Kylie, almost as if he were the girl's own father, felt proud of her progress. Hana herself, however, did not seem to enjoy that conversation with a stranger, even feeling a chill run down her body. Since childhood, Hana had always had difficulty interacting with others. Once, she had dug up a potato in the playground and offered it to the other children, who ran away terrified. Only Kylie stayed by her side. He was the only one who laughed at her peculiarities, finding her curious way amusing. Another time, when they were sitting in a cyber cafe, Kylie asked for some of Hana's soup, but she refused, saying she didn't want to share and told him to order his own. He, misunderstanding her reaction, simply pulled the bowl and started drinking the broth. The girl got furious and reacted by hitting him on the back. It was then that Kylie wanted to know why she never went out with other girls and spent her days only at the cyber cafe. Hana's answer came cold as usual. She said it was easier to be alone since that way no one bothered her. Besides, she still saw her classmates at school. She also added that their interests didn't match because they didn't like video games or watch anime. He replied, insinuating that maybe it was her own personality that got in the way when it came to making friends, and those words irritated her even more. Unable to contain her anger, Hana began hitting Kylie with all the strength she could. For reasons like these, Hana had always had difficulty communicating with other people, and although Kylie did not fully understand, he realized that, in a way, there was some sense in all of it. Now, witnessing his friend talking to someone for the first time, he was happy with the scene, even without imagining that, in fact, she just wanted to run away from there. Hana had no idea what to say or how to act. Her hands squeezed nervously, not knowing how to respond to that boy she barely knew. Even so, he asked the obvious question, wanting to know her name. She answered shyly that her name was Hana. The boy commented that the name was beautiful, and then introduced himself as Need. He already seemed to have started to talk in a more informal way, but she did not share the same enthusiasm, wondering how she should call him. Nade then pointed to the number 20 on his sleeve, explaining that it indicated his year of admission. Only at that moment did Hana realize she was not facing a freshman. He added that newcomers would always be newcomers, but said he thought she was very cute, which triggered an immediate reaction in her. Nade offered to drink with her as a way of apologizing, but the glass was empty, which left her confused. Then he threw her a suggestive look toward his shoulder, increasing her confusion even more. Only then did Hana understand what he meant. There was a bottle of soju on the table, and he expected her to serve him. She remembered that she used to do small performances when serving or drinking, but now she didn't have the courage to repeat that in front of a stranger. Nade then noted that she was serving the wrong way, which irritated her to the point of almost wanting to hit him with the bottle. He explained that when serving a drink to elders, it was necessary to cover the soju bottle label in a certain way and pour slowly without touching the glass. Besides that, he added that when drinking, one should turn the torso and head to the side, exactly as he demonstrated. Nade wanted to know if she understood, but Hana couldn't understand why she had to do all that just to drink a glass of alcohol. Although they seemed like useless skills to her, he insisted they would be useful later when she was integrated into society. The boy kept talking non-stop while she only pretended to pay attention. In fact, she only heard noise and was almost ready to kill Kylie for dragging her there, even though she had made it clear that she didn't want to go. Even so, she thought that if it weren't for him, she wouldn't have started a conversation with anyone. Maybe it wasn't so bad to try to talk to other people too, and for that reason she decided to listen to that boy for now. Nade asked if she had already made new friends at the university. Hana chose not to lie and answered sincerely that she hadn't made any yet. He found it strange that such a pretty girl hadn't met anyone, and then asked her to give him her number, repeating that he thought she was very cute. Then came the fateful question. He wanted to know if Hana had a boyfriend, leaving her in shock, not knowing how to react. Meanwhile, Kylie went outside, where his friends still showed no hurry to go in. He approached Drake, who was calmly smoking a cigarette, and commented that he had gone out just to breathe some fresh air. The boys were talking about a particular person who had shown up that day. He had already appeared the previous year, and at that time there were problems. One of them commented that something had happened with a freshman who later ended up dropping out. On that occasion, the guy had stained the veteran's reputation and now seemed to have found a new victim. When Kylie wanted to know who it was, one of the boys pointed toward the current problem, explaining that he was saying that because he cared about him. He added that they really believed Nade wouldn't show up again after last year's fiasco, but they were wrong, and the new victim was precisely Hana, who already seemed to have overcome the initial embarrassment and was talking normally. The guy kept talking, but Kylie had already stopped paying attention because he understood the seriousness of the situation, and there was Hana smiling and listening to that despicable individual, completely unaware of who she actually had in front of her. One of Kylie's friends suggested that he shouldn't get involved and should treat Nade just as a senior, but Kylie thought in a much more radical way. Without hesitation, he decided to go back into the building. When his friend wanted to know where he was going, Kylie replied that he was going to rescue that freshman because it was Hana, his best friend since childhood. He still murmured to himself that no one would believe the unbelievable talent Hana always had for being so unlucky. No matter what happened, he remembered a special day when he was talking to Merlinda about someone asking Hana to be their girlfriend, but the girl didn't care and said she didn't mind. She preferred to go eat. As soon as Hana was about to open a door, the doorknob simply fell into her hands. It was normal when they came in, but for some reason it broke right at that moment. They ended up leaving the classroom that way and went to eat her cookie near the school, agreeing to meet again the next day. Hana seemed happy since the weekend was coming, but soon came another misfortune. A bird dropped dirt on her hair. First the doorknob, then that. None of it seemed like a good omen. Her friends even commented that it would be better for her to lock herself at home. Kylie always joked that one day he would become a millionaire just to pay for an exorcism for her, since Hana had always been unlucky since she was little. Returning to the present, Nade made a joke, saying that he needed her number for other purposes. After all, if there were any doubts, she could contact him. He believed that those words could have made her heart beat faster, but Hana replied that they did not. The situation had completely changed. A few minutes earlier, she didn't even know how people managed to start a conversation, and now she was there saving Nade's number. The boy still boasted of having excellent grades in all subjects and said that she could trust him, saying that he could help her choose the right classes, study, and get good grades with the teachers. But Hana was already starting to get tired of hearing him talk only about himself. Deep down, she just wished he would stop. Her attempt to socialize was not going well at all she wanted was to leave there, to go home or to a PC cafe. Anywhere would be better than that. Hana got up from her chair, finally determined to leave, but the boy showed surprise and didn't let her go. He grabbed her bag, trying to stop her from leaving the freshman's party. He became increasingly intimidating, saying that he was reaching the climax of his story, and that she would regret it if she didn't listen until the end. Then, at the exact moment, Kylie put his arm around his friend's neck and apologized for the delay. Hana looked with tears of genuine relief, realizing that he had arrived at the right time, even acting exaggeratedly by calling Kylie amazing, something that sounded strange even to her. Surprised, Nade wanted to know if they were dating. Kylie then grabbed the boy and pulled him out of the party, saying that the place was reserved only for freshmen and that Knight was not one of them. He dragged him by force while the others struggled like a fish out of water, but his strength proved superior. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Hana tried to act like a clever cat, ready to slip away without being noticed. However, once again, she lost the chance to leave quietly. Now it was Kylie himself who stopped her. Placing his hand on her head, he wanted to know exactly where she intended to go in the middle of the freshmen's party. It didn't take long for him to conclude that his friend was just trying to sneak out while no one was paying attention. Irritated, Hana wanted to know what he wanted. Kylie commented that she didn't even notice that she had just been saved by him and asked what she would do with her life without his help. She replied that she would live perfectly fine without him and then said that she needed to leave immediately. However, Kylie said that leaving in the middle of the party like that was not acceptable. Before that, Hana needed to make some new friends. At first, she made a face at the simple mention of new friendships, but shortly after, her face lit up with a smile. Kylie then introduced two girls, the sweet Suan, with silver hair and 20 years old, and Romania with dark hair, also 20 years old. Soon after came two more young women, Lauren with light hair and Liana with dark hair, both also 20 years old. He believed that that group would be a good match for Hana, and that it would be great if they could all become friends. Kylie with a smile commented that he still had some things to do and left, asking the girls to enjoy the night. Hana even seemed more comfortable than she had been beside the insistent Nid, but she knew that her smile was just a false mask. The worst part was the feeling that began to take over her, the weight of the awkward silence. With Nid, at least she could respond with monosyllables, which made everything easier, like a 2-star difficulty level in a game. But with those girls, the level of conversation seemed far beyond what she could handle, something that might go beyond 5 stars of difficulty. She couldn't go on like that. That discomfort would suffocate her. Then she stood up and said she needed to go to the bathroom. She took refuge in the bathroom, sitting on the toilet seat, while searching on her phone for an answer to her big question, how to make friends. Even she was surprised to be resorting to something like that, since it seemed impossible to imagine until the day before that she would live through such a situation. Then came the discovery. According to what she read in a comment on a YouTube video, it was necessary to talk about trends. Excited, Hana returned to the table and asked the girls if they had already tried the famous spicy soup. At first, it seemed to her the perfect question, but she soon realized how stupid that was. It was obvious that they hadn't tried it. After all, that was an old trend. Then she began to torment herself, convinced that it was precisely because of silly questions like that she didn't have friends. To make things worse, silence filled the air. Accompanied by the girls' fixed stares, Hana was on the verge of going crazy until Swan and Romania broke the silence. They said yes, they had already tried it. Those words brought her enormous relief. It felt like a victory. Romania commented that she didn't like the dish very much, while Swana said that she had enjoyed it. Meanwhile, Liana whispered to Lauren, suggesting they go to Kylie, but Lauren seemed more excited about making new friends and suggested that everyone have lunch together after class. As Lauren became increasingly enthusiastic, Liana did not show the same excitement, although she had no choice but to accept. Frustrated with the situation, Liana thought that she had only gone to that party because she imagined she could sit next to Kylie. However, as usual, reality was far from what she had imagined, since he remained busy attending to other people as if he were the waiter of the place. The party ended, and the new students were now standing on the dark city street, illuminated only by the streetlights. There was a desire that the newly formed friendship would last at least a little while, and that later they wouldn't simply pretend not to know each other. As a test, Johan asked his new friend Suan if she remembered his name. She mumbled without being able to pronounce it correctly, and he had to repeat it. Hana watched everything with a smile. At first, she didn't like the idea at all, but now she was happy she went. After all, no one would mistakenly think she was dating her childhood friend. She even thought it wouldn't hurt to spend less time by his side and more with her new friends. When they began saying goodbye, Hana said she was going that way, and wanted to know if anyone else was heading in the same direction, but only Kylie was by her side. Everyone looked at them and whispered, and Drake asked if they were leaving together again, increasing even more the rumor that they were dating. Hana looked at Kylie, and it seemed like all her efforts to distance herself from him were crumbling. Her irritated look surprised the boy, who stared back, puzzled. In her thoughts, Hana even blamed him as if he were the reason she had no friends. Then she told him to go home first, since she would stay there another half hour before returning alone. But Kylie started joking, saying he was afraid of being followed by someone suspicious. Johan and Drake once again interpreted that the couple was just trying to hide a secret romance, and Hana even suggested that the two accompany Kylie, but Drake immediately refused, saying he needed to go to the gym since it was leg day for him, and that Johan would have to carry her afterward. Hearing that, Hana had no idea what they were talking about. Soon Suan was moved by the friendship between Kylie and Hana, commenting that such sincere bonds cultivated since childhood were wonderful, and even said they made a perfect couple. The words made both Kylie and Hana shiver and freeze inside. The mere idea of dating each other caused them disgust, almost nausea. Kylie hurried to say that he could never date Hana because his standards were quite high. Suan literally replied that Hana seemed to be tall. Smiling nervously, Hana even apologized to Suan for being born that way, saying it was her parents' fault. Suan replied that wasn't what she meant and apologized excessively. Hana found that sincerity amusing and couldn't resist teasing her, asking if she should pass because now she was her new friend. When Kylie began to say that Hana didn't want to make friends, she elbowed him in the stomach and told him to shut up. Shortly after, the moment of farewell arrived and everyone went their separate ways. Hana, however, wasn't satisfied with how things had ended since she didn't want the others to leave and leave her alone with Kylie. At the last moment, Drake still turned around, signaling that he would be watching them closely. Hana felt uncomfortable with that attitude, thinking he seemed like a lunatic, and Kylie agreed with his friend's observation. A short while ago, everyone was cheerful and loud for having made new friends, but now that silence had settled, something felt strange. While walking beside Kylie, Hana noticed that he was far too quiet that day. She wondered if that had anything to do with the teasing the others had made earlier and if he was feeling embarrassed because of it. With a doubtful expression, she called him, but there was no response. His silence made her uneasy. Looking at her friend, Hana wondered why she couldn't get any reaction out of him and if she had said something wrong before. The idea that he hated being the target of teasing worried her even more, especially since he might have to deal with her all the time. Hana reflected that if he really didn't like being by her side, he could simply say so. His silence made her anxious, almost driving her crazy, and she even thought maybe she should be the one to suggest they spend less time together first. Gathering courage, Hana called Kylie, hesitantly mentioning the two of them, wondering if it wouldn't be better to spend less time together. She tried to justify herself, saying that people might be misinterpreting the fact that they were always side by side. He replied that he didn't mind, but before finishing she hurried to correct herself, making it clear she wasn't comfortable with it. She exclaimed that she didn't accept the situation either, and that he didn't seem to accept it either, explaining that she had only said that because she imagined he might be bothered. Hana laughed nervously but was soon taken again by his silence. She wondered why Kylie didn't say anything. She had already said everything she was thinking, but he remained quiet. Deep down, she realized she wasn't the only one feeling uncomfortable in that situation. Hana, irritated, couldn't believe the situation, called Kylie impatiently, and to her surprise realized he had been wearing earphones the whole time. Outraged, she questioned how he could walk beside someone without even paying attention, as if she didn't exist. Then she realized all the drama she had created in her mind was nothing but imagination. He simply hadn't heard anything she had said before. She felt embarrassed for overthinking and recognized that it was always like that. She ended up carrying alone. Indignant, she complained again, calling his attention loudly. She grabbed the device and emphasized that it was rude to walk with someone and still wear earphones, saying she would keep them for a while as punishment. Kylie complained, saying he didn't even have freedom, reminding her that he had helped Hana make friends that day and was still being treated that way. Suddenly, he surprised her by noticing her blushing face, slowly reaching out his hand. Kylie touched her forehead and asked if she had a fever, leaving her confused by that gesture. He said that was exactly why she shouldn't drink so much since she couldn't handle it, and asked that next time she not overdo it because it made him worried. After examining her, he concluded that she didn't seem to have a fever, which left her even more speechless in the face of his unexpected concern. Hana snapped out of that trance-like state, almost burning with embarrassment, and soon became irritated by Kylie's insistence on touching her. She exploded with anger and imposed ultimatums, 3 meters of distance, no touching, no calls, no messages, stating that it was because of that people had ended up misunderstanding the situation. Then she walked ahead, moving away. Kylie, surprised, wondered why she was in such a hurry, and thought that she really had a strange personality. He promised himself that next time he wouldn't bother her, even if she were drunk. Still, he considered it a shame. By showing just a bit of care, it already seemed like he would be devoured alive at home. Hana really seemed bothered by the whole situation with Kylie, and was now sure she would keep her distance from him. She decided that no one else would think they were in a relationship, and she herself would no longer have that kind of thought. Looking at Kylie's profile picture, she remained silent for a while, before deciding it was already time to sleep. All of that irritated her so much that she concluded that starting the next day, they would need to avoid each other at all costs. The next morning, after a long night of sleep, Hana was awakened not by the sound of birds, but by the annoying ring of her phone. When she answered, she heard her mother greeting her amid the rush of cooking and working, asking why her daughter was still in bed. Hana grumbled that it was the weekend and asked if her mother was really working, to which she replied that it was just another ordinary day. Right after, she said she had prepared food for her daughter, including marinated crab, her favorite dish. Hana's mouth even watered just thinking about it, but her excitement was cut short when her mother said she had also made some for Kylie. Hana became furious, complaining that she would have preferred the food to be separated into different containers and saying she didn't want to bring him anything. Her mother, however, insisted that the boy should eat anyway since he loved her marinated crab, and even declared that it was an order. Frustrated, Hana sighed, hearing her mother demand that she take a picture of the food already in Kylie's fridge to prove she had completed the task. A few minutes later, the food arrived packed in containers. Hana stared at it, wondering if she shouldn't just eat it all herself, but her conscience weighed on her, and she ended up deciding to follow her mother's order. She walked to Kylie's apartment, convincing herself she was doing it only out of obligation, not by choice. When she arrived, she noticed the windows were closed and thought he was probably still asleep. She decided to act like a spy. She would go in quickly, put the food in the fridge, take a picture, and avoid being seen at all costs. Sure that he was asleep, she typed in the door code, which she knew very well, and entered with no difficulty. The interior was surprisingly dark despite the sunny day. Moving stealthily, she opened the fridge and began storing the side dishes prepared by her mother. But at that moment, Kylie woke up and noticed a strange figure in his house. Unable to see clearly, he only saw a shadow moving near the fridge and, alarmed, thought it might be a thief. He found it odd that someone would steal from his fridge, which barely had water, but still armed himself with the altar, ready to react. While Hana was finishing putting the food away, Kylie burst into the kitchen demanding to know who was there. Hana almost fainted from fright, and when she turned around, revealed her face, leaving Kylie completely confused upon realizing the supposed thief was actually his childhood friend. He asked what she was doing there, but Hana didn't answer right away. Her gaze had stopped on his lower half. Only when he insisted a second time did she stammer and order him to get dressed, reminding him they were friends but not that close. Kylie, surprised, realized he was only in his underwear, quickly put on pants and grumbled that he was in his own house and could dress however he wanted. In the middle of the chaos, he still wanted to know why she had looked so attentively, but Hana turned her eyes away, embarrassed. She defensively replied that he was crazy since she hadn't looked at anything. Then Kylie turned on the apartment lights and, remembering her promise from the night before, commented that she had said she wouldn't text or call and asked what it meant to show up there suddenly. Hana replied that she hadn't come for him but only to deliver her mother's marinated crab, grumbling that she had no choice. Then she said that since her mission was accomplished, she had no reason to stay any longer. Even so, Kylie soon suggested that since she was already there, they could eat together. Annoyed, the girl asked if he really thought she'd be willing to have a meal with him at that moment, reminding him she had already said the day before it would be the last time. Kylie commented that she was being too persistent and questioned if she believed that would push them apart. At his provocation, she growled in anger, saying that he really knew how to make her furious. He smiled casually, and she wondered if he did it on purpose or if he was just naive. Hana asked him to stop joking, saying she had already made new friends and that whatever was between them was over. Kylie, laughing, recalled the time she said she wanted to go to the same college as him and asked when she had said that. Surprised, she retorted if he was implying that she had chosen the college because of him. Kylie replied evasively, saying that back then she herself had said she'd heard he was good at making friends and that they should work hard together. The girl, startled at remembering what she had said before, wondered if she had completely lost her mind. Later, as they walked down the street, she complained loudly, remembering that the last time they bought the hoodie, everyone started suspecting them. He tried to justify that if they acted that way, they wouldn't raise any suspicion at all, but he believed it was actually her behavior, enforcing the 3-meter rule, that made everything seem even more suspicious. She assured him she had no intention of being close and said she was only accompanying him because he had promised to buy a hoodie to replace the one he threw away. He commented that the way they looked made it seem like an older brother taking his grumpy little sister shopping. Out of patience, she replied that it didn't matter as long as they kept the agreed distance. Kylie insisted that she come closer, but she kept refusing, protesting loudly that she didn't want to. In the middle of the argument, he ended up pulling her by the arm while she screamed for him not to come near or touch her. The scene caught the attention of people around, and a few curious glances turned toward them, puzzled by the commotion. At that moment, an acquaintance from afar recognized the two and commented in surprise that it was Kylie and Hana. For him, there was no doubt. The two were walking side by side, holding hands as if they were a couple. Shocked, he concluded that it was incredible, barely able to contain his excitement. Tired of the teasing, Hana stated that she didn't need help and that she knew how to take care of herself. The guy replied that he had never implied otherwise, but she justified it by saying people always tended to say that. Suddenly, a sports car sped by, catching both their attention. She immediately recognized the model, a Mugkeeler 720X, and commented excitedly that she had always dreamed of being a car designer. Despite her excitement, she admitted she would probably go her whole life without having the chance to ride in a car like that. He, watching her enthusiasm, asked why she couldn't dream big, reminding her that they had always been taught to cultivate great dreams. She reflected that by dreaming big, one also risked facing big disappointments. Still, she admitted that maybe she might have a chance to ride in a Mugkeeler someday. The guy, in a practical tone, replied that before that she should first get her driver's license. Finally, Hana questioned who would have the courage to drive a car like that in the middle of the city. Kylie concluded obviously that it could only be a human being. The two watched as the vehicle approached. Hana imagined that only an older man would get out of such an extravagant car, but she was surprised to see that the driver was a young man with striking and elegant looks. "He looks like an elf," she commented excitedly, admiring his beauty. Kylie, on the other hand, showed disdain, seeing him only as someone with a troublemaker's air. While Hana let herself be carried away by admiration, Kylie tried to refocus, reminding her that they had other matters to handle. But at that moment, the stranger began walking toward them, drawing even more of the girl's attention. The atmosphere grew tense when the two men's eyes met. The silver-haired man coldly asked if Kylie wasn't going to move out of the way, and both stood face to face, silently measuring each other. Hana froze in fear, worried that he might have overheard their conversation, and wishing only to disappear without drawing attention. Suddenly, an old lady interrupted the scene, scolding the two for blocking the path. The elderly woman, with an air of superiority, simply ordered them to move aside, claiming she was too busy to waste time. Confused, Hana didn't quite understand what had happened but decided to leave the matter behind. Kylie was still complaining, insisting that it hadn't been him who started the confrontation but rather a man who refused to move. Hana, tired, preferred to stay silent to avoid more trouble. Even so, she couldn't get the stranger out of her mind and wondered what kind of person he really was, though she concluded she'd probably never see him again. Kylie hurried her to move on, reminding her they needed to buy clothes. Upon entering the store, they were greeted by a smiling clerk who immediately complimented them as an adorable couple and asked if they were there to buy matching outfits. Embarrassed, Hana vehemently denied it, saying they were just friends. They were there only for regular clothes. The clerk, however, didn't seem convinced and, full of enthusiasm, commented that all young couples said the same thing, including herself. She had started that way with her husband and now already had 3 children. Not knowing how to react, Hana and Kylie left the store as quickly as possible after buying the hoodie, promising never to return. Kylie, indignant, stated that anyone with eyes could clearly see they were just friends. Hana, impatient, punched him in the stomach and told him to shut up. In the end, she got the hoodie she wanted. For a moment, she almost felt sorry for Kylie spending so much, but soon concluded that she had come out ahead. She wondered if that could be unexpected luck and decided to rest that day, prepare for school, and go to bed early. The next morning began in a coffee shop. The barista greeted her warmly, handed her drink, and even complimented her as a hard-working customer. Hana thanked him with a smile and left there satisfied. Soon after, she received a bank notification confirming the payment. She still had a good balance, even with 2 weeks left before receiving her allowance, and concluded that her spending was within acceptable limits. While walking and drinking her iced coffee, she thought that after class she should have lunch with her friends. The beginning of that day seemed perfect. She felt refreshed and enthusiastic, determined to hurry and get to class quickly. In the classroom, Hana was caught off guard when a classmate called out to her loudly and bluntly asked if she was dating Kylie. Before she could recover, he showed his phone displaying a picture of the two walking side by side as if it were undeniable proof of a relationship. Annoyed, Hana thought how that particular picture looked compromising and wondered why someone had even taken a photo of that moment. She rushed to deny it, explaining that she had only gone with him because Kylie had promised to buy her a hoodie. But the classmate immediately countered, asking why he would have done that if they weren't together. Nervous, Hana tried to justify herself simply, saying she needed a new hoodie and that they had just gone to buy one together, but another classmate with a suspicious look asked if it couldn't just be a casual fling. Hana protested, stating that there was nothing between her and Kylie, but her classmates kept insisting on knowing why situations that led to misunderstandings always seemed to happen. One of the guys tried to intervene, asking them to stop and reminding them that Miss Hana had said it wasn't true, so there was no reason to continue. But Liana, still suspicious, commented that she always seemed to see something, and pointed to the photo as proof, saying there's no smoke without fire. It was at that moment that the classroom door opened and Kylie walked in. His mere presence drew everyone's attention and froze the atmosphere. The classmate, a bit embarrassed, mumbled a greeting while another rushed to show him the photo on the phone, eager to confirm the truth. Kylie took the phone without hesitation, looked at the image, and asked if buying a simple piece of clothing for a friend was really something that deserved so much attention and photos. The entire classroom fell silent when he sharply added that it was none of their business. Still, Liana tried to lighten the mood, saying she just wanted to see the photo. Kylie replied curtly that he had already deleted it. Then he ordered them not to take photos like that again, and if they were curious, they should ask him directly. His voice hardened as he made it clear that if the situation happened again, he wouldn't just stand by and watch. Kylie's seriousness weighed heavily in the room, making the others step back immediately. Meanwhile, Hana watched in silence, wondering if he was really angry or just pretending. When he turned to her, however, he asked almost playfully if he had done well. Surprised, Hana shyly agreed, admitting that he had handled it well, though she thought they should clear up the misunderstanding as soon as possible. 2 hours later, the teacher announced a 10-minute break. In the hallway, Hana sighed, feeling the weight of everything that had happened. She just wished the class would end soon, but as she stepped out, she was surprised to see Kylie standing near the vending machine. Curious, she approached and asked what he was doing there. The guy looked back and without warning pressed a cold can against her face. Hana complained about the chill, but he just laughed, offering the drink as an apology. She found his sudden attitude strange and wanted to know the reason. Kylie explained that it was because of all the misunderstandings. Hana grumbled that because he was handsome he always drew attention and caused trouble, while he retorted that he was also a victim of circumstances. In the end, she gave up the argument, opened the can, and drank it all at once, cheerfully commenting that 20 years of friendship made all the difference since he knew exactly what she liked. Kylie watched her in silence, reflecting on how peculiar her personality was. She got irritated easily but quickly returned to her innocent behavior. When he noticed her expression, Hana raised her eyebrows and asked what was so funny. She asked if he was laughing at her for enjoying the drink, and Kylie replied casually that it was because she looked cute. She replied skeptically, asking how someone could look cute just by drinking. He promised he would be more careful next time so she wouldn't get caught up in trouble, but made it clear that didn't mean they had to end their friendship. He invited her to go back into the classroom with him, but Hana complained, reminding him that he had just said he would be more careful. While she got irritated, Kylie thought to himself that her kindness and unpredictability were exactly what made her charming. A pity others couldn't see it. With a discreet smile, he admitted that he liked that side of her. Hana, embarrassed, replied that he was talking nonsense again. From a distance, Liana watched the two, wondering why they still hung around together if both claimed they weren't dating. With a suspicious look, she concluded that Hana was really funny and silently thought she wanted to see how far that would go. Later, at the end of class, the girls gathered around a table full of colorful sweets. Between laughter and chatter, Liana took the chance to apologize to Hana for what had happened earlier. Hana replied that it was nothing serious, just a misunderstanding. Liana, however, wanted to confirm if she really didn't have any relationship with Kai. Hana firmly said no, that they didn't have any kind of relationship. Then Liana smiled mischievously and asked if she could introduce her to another guy. Hana was surprised to hear her friend's suggestion, wondering if she really should meet another guy. Liana explained that since there were so many misunderstandings, maybe the rumors would stop if she started dating someone. A bit awkwardly, Hana replied that being introduced to someone felt strange and even commented that this kind of thing usually happened to prettier people. Her friend laughed and said Hana was also pretty, though she criticized her fashion sense, suggesting she could try a different style in the future. Liana commented that there's a saying that people look more attractive when they're in love. Hana blushed, finding that strange, but listened to the suggestion to at least try talking to someone. If it didn't work out, she could simply cut contact. The words made her reflect. After all, she herself had said she didn't want any more misunderstandings, and maybe it was a good chance to distance herself from Kylie. Thinking about it, she concluded that actions spoke louder than words. Still, deep down, she thought it was all exaggerated. Meeting someone new just to avoid confusion seemed too much. Suddenly, she found herself trying to escape Kylie while being pushed toward another guy without warning, finding the situation strange and even a little funny. In her thoughts, she wished to meet someone naturally and unexpectedly, not through forced arrangements. Hana thanked Liana for her concern but explained that she wasn't ready for that kind of meeting at the moment. Liana insisted, saying that there was no reason for concern, but the other friend intervened, asking Liana to stop pressuring. Reflecting alone, Hana remembered that Kylie had also promised to be more careful, which would help avoid new misunderstandings between them. With that, she concluded that maybe it was time to look for someone who was truly her ideal match, and with a sparkle in her eyes, she decided that one day she would meet her perfect combination. At night, Kylie arrived at the restaurant where his friends were already waiting for him. One of them called him excitedly to join the table. While they grilled the meat and drank, he asked if they had already drunk too much. Drake replied that they had only had one bottle. The subject changed when someone mentioned a photo taken earlier and wanted to know what it was about. Kylie tried to cover it up, saying it was nothing much, he had just given some clothes to a friend. The friend insisted, stating that it was not just that. They had seen the two walking together arm in arm. Kylie dodged, saying that he had always been close to people and saw no problem with that. Drake confirmed, commenting that he really got along well with both girls and guys, without seeming strange or forced. Johan stared at Kylie and said that although he had many friends, it was different when it came to Hana. Kylie countered, asking if Johan also had women. He replied that he did, but made it clear that he didn't act like Kylie. He said he didn't walk arm in arm nor holding hands as he did. Kylie tried to soften it, saying that he only cared about Hana as a friend, and that he didn't need to justify everything. And Johan wanted to know if he really didn't have any feelings for Hana. Kylie denied firmly, saying that if he had, they would have been together a long time ago, and added that he only wished for her to find a good boyfriend. Then Johan called him selfish, saying that because of him, Hana was losing the chance to meet someone good. Kylie retorted that if anyone wanted to get close to her, they just had to show up. The friend then asked if he himself could try to win her over. He replied yes, but with one condition. If he had feelings for Hana, he should show them clearly. Johan agreed, but added that he did have them. However, he didn't want her to have a male friend like Kylie, and asked if he would distance himself from her. Kylie remained silent, and then said it was fine, but thought that was absurd, questioning himself why he should stay away from Hana. Sometime later, Kylie decided to go to the convenience store to buy something, since he couldn't eat much meat because of Johan. While fiddling with his phone, he considered sending a message to Hana, but held back. He decided to avoid seeing her so often, reducing their meetings little by little, reflecting that if she got hurt because of him, that couldn't happen. He headed to the store thinking only about buying something and going home, but was surprised to see Hana coming out of there and wondered if that was just a coincidence. He called out to her, but soon noticed that there was another person by her side and questioned who that guy was, as well as why he felt so bothered by the scene. He soon recognized the senior knight and wanted to know why she was with him. That left him even more confused, recalling the words he had heard before, that maybe he was the reason Hana was losing the chance to meet someone good, but decided that his case was different from what Johan had said. While thinking about it, Hana and the senior noticed Kylie. She smiled and asked if he had come to buy something. The senior also recognized him and called him by name. Annoyed and awkward, Kylie replied dryly, clearly showing his discomfort with the situation. The senior commented that they had already met at the cafe during campus orientation, and that because of him, he spent 3 straight hours being scolded by the professor. Besides that, Nide mentioned that Kylie was quite popular among the freshmen, and that many girls were already talking about him. Hana, smiling, hurried to explain that he was just her friend. Nide replied that in that case they must be pretty close, which left her embarrassed, trying to think of how to describe him. To change the subject, she told Kylie that Nide had just bought her a chocolate milk. She thanked him excitedly, calling it the best. He tried to downplay the situation but was clearly pleased. Hana got emotional, saying it was the first time she had received a gift like that since entering college, and thanked him a lot, commenting that he was different from what she had heard. Kylie, on the other hand, thought she was naive to believe that, thinking it was nothing more than a trick. Even so, he couldn't help but worry about her for being so sincere and valuing even small gestures. She praised the senior once again, but Kylie thought it was exaggerated. Nide then joked, asking if the two of them, since they had known each other for so long, might like each other. At that moment, Kylie reacted in shock, denying it firmly. He raised his voice in irritation, but Hana asked him to calm down, reminding him that it was just a joke. Embarrassed Knight apologized and said he would leave, making the atmosphere heavy between them. Seeing him walk away, Hana was bothered by how Kylie had acted and asked why he had done that. Annoyed, Kylie replied that she shouldn't accept gifts from strangers, but the girl retorted that the senior wasn't a stranger and wanted to know what was wrong with him. Upset, Kylie decided to leave, but Hana insisted that they go together, since they lived in the same direction. While walking side by side, Kylie remained silent, confused to notice that suddenly he found Hana beautiful. He tried to justify that thought to himself, saying that maybe it was just because her hair was tied up. Suddenly, Kylie pulled her hair, telling her to let it down, complained that she was already ugly and that in that way she looked even worse. Then, he ordered her to hide her face and zip up her hoodie, claiming that her appearance could scare people and that it was cold at night, even though it was spring. He scolded her for wearing such light clothes, asking since when she dressed that way. Hana protested, saying that her clothes weren't thin, and that all the girls dressed like that nowadays, also emphasizing that she was a conservative young woman. Irritated, she complained that he was ignoring her in the middle of the argument, and wanted to know what he was doing. In the end, Hana was outraged, thinking to herself what was wrong with him to act that way. At the market, Hana asked what Kylie was going to buy and suggested eating instant noodles. Excited, she chose a flavor and said it was delicious. Meanwhile, he watched her irritated, finding it annoying how she always walked around talking and drinking milk. She noticed his gaze and said that she didn't need to share, as long as he stopped staring. Kylie wondered what was so special about that milk and soon after ordered her not to drink it and hand it over to him. Hana wanted to drink it, as it was the first time someone had given her something like that at the university. Surprised by the word gift, Kylie ended up saying that he would buy as many as she wanted for her. In the end, Hana left hugging several boxes of chocolate milk. She complained that she didn't need that many, and asked Kylie to return what he had received from Nid. However, he took the box and drank it in front of her, saying that it was already gone. Furious, she protested, but he just finished. He asked her not to get close to Nid anymore. Confused, Hana insisted on knowing the reason. He started to say that he had heard some things, but wasn't sure, ending the subject by saying that she should only greet him from afar. The girl didn't understand anything, finding his behavior very strange. On the way back, she commented that she would play some games before going to sleep, and even thought about cutting her hair shorter since she found it uncomfortable. Kylie, however, said that she should sleep early to grow, but Hana smiled and excitedly asked if he wanted to play a match with her. And that's it for today. If you like the story and want the continuation, let me know in the comments by writing friends with benefits. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to follow the new parts. That's it, guys. Thanks and see you next time.